Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'm Amanda Price, the VP of Marketing here at Boostability, and Search Sessions is a thought leadership series dedicated to helping businesses position themselves for success. We feature fascinating people, business leaders, marketing and SEO experts, along with founders and CEOs to provide key advice to take your business to the next level. This week, we have a fantastic show for you about the top business and marketing trends to watch out for in 2021. Kristine Pratt, our Director of Content, Colton Miller, our Director of SEO, and myself will be breaking down key SEO, business, and marketing trends you need to know to succeed in the new year. We'll cover predictions from 15 CEOs, thought leaders, and experts on strategies for the upcoming year and how you can apply them to your business. Kristine, thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Amanda. Glad to be here.
Of course. And Colton, great to have you today as always.
It's always great to be here.
Perfect. All right, guys, let's get started. So in today's agenda, we're going to start with quick introductions, and then we're going to jump right into SEO trends, e-commerce and emerging strategies, content marketing and social media, and then we're going to end with a Q&A. So please feel free to drop any questions into the Q&A section below, and we'll answer them live at the end. All right, let's start with introductions. So for the SEO trends, we've compiled fantastic predictions from Gavin Thorpe, the CEO of Boostability, Colton Miller, our Director of Content, Laura Cole, the VP of Marketing at Vivial, Miguel Angel Vivez Garcia, Product Development at ADN in Mexico, and Byron Morgas, the CEO at Always Innovative Solutions in South Africa. We also have fantastic expert predictions on e-commerce and emerging strategies from John LeBaron, the CRO at Pattern, Jeff Tomlin, the CMO and co-founder of Vendasta, Trajan Bailey, the CEO at Grey Falcon, Kramer Hope, Director of Marketing at Comparably, and three superstar players from Demandbase, Gabe Rogel, the CEO, John Miller, the CPO, Peter Isaacson, the CMO, and then Damon Fieldgate, the CEO of SiteLog. For our content and social media trends, we have Dwayne Forrester, VP of Insights at Yext, Andy Mentges, the CEO at Vertical Response Email Marketing, Mark Fisk, the operating partner for marketing at HIG Capital, Laura Cole, VP of Marketing at Vivial, and Miguel Angel Vivez Garcia, Product Development at ADN. So let's start with a quick introduction of Boostability, and then we will get into this. So Boostability is the global leader in small business and partner-focused white label SEO. We offer affordable SEO specifically designed to meet the needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Our proprietary technology Launchpad tracks over 2.3 million keyword rankings per month, which enables us to make SEO decisions based on millions of bits of information. Not only that, but we serve customers and partners around the world. We're in 15 countries, 9 languages, and we are quickly expanding. We get 86% of our customers on the first page of Google within 6 months and got 78,000 keywords on page 1 of Google in 2020. And Boostability is dedicated to helping businesses succeed online. So the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way businesses operate, how employees work, how our communication methods work, customer expectations, and how marketers protect and grow brands. In 2021, we'll continue the progression of digital acceleration across all channels of business, from commerce to communication, marketing to customer service. And businesses who adapt to the new normal will succeed and grow, outpacing others who are resistant to change. And I love this quote, as the Greek philosopher Hercules said, the only constant in life is change. So are you ready for the new year? We're going to uncover a bunch of different trends and predictions to help you. So starting with SEO, here are key trends your business should consider to position itself for success in 2021. Colton, over to you.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started here. As far as my portion of it, I've broken it down into essentially 3 segments. The first bit is going to be about local. So if you have a local physical based business or even just a physical based service, you're going to want to kind of keep your ears open there. Then after that, we'll get into kind of website and content and kind of what you need to expect coming up this year for that. And then the last bit is just kind of covering the trends that we expect to either continue or just kind of see more of in 2021. Just kind of get your ears to the ground as far as what you may want to prepare for, as a business and as a website. targeting search. So starting here, GMB here, Byron did a great job, and I loved his section on the trend report there. But basically, just kind of as a quick summary here, he hit on that due to COVID, the need for accurate information is greater now than it has realistically ever been. And so because of that, there's a huge need to just make sure that you as a business, especially a local business, have your information up to date. And to be quite frank, that could mean going in there weekly, maybe even daily, depending on the vertical that you're in, to just make sure that you are updating your information, updating your hours of service, making sure that the way that you actually respond and work with customers is accurate there. And then obviously making sure your phone number, your address, all those things are constantly up to date. Strictly speaking, you want to focus on Google My Business, but this does extend out to other citation platforms. I know if you're like a lawyer, for example, Avo, different things like that are going to be more pertinent for you and your vertical. So keep that in mind when you go and look at those citations. It's not just Google, it's also everywhere else that has your business information. If you've changed your street address slightly, make sure that you update it on all of those other areas. The other bit to go with this that Byron got into, which I fully agree with, is that when you are working on your GMB or you are working on your website, especially for local, make sure that you're keeping in mind Google voice search. And then after that, make sure that you are trying to include kind of e-commerce capabilities, if you will. So basically ways for people to interact with your service, your business, your brand online. Again, mostly due to COVID, but that is likely to be an expectation from users going forward. So if you will, next slide here. So obviously, assuming that you have your business information accurate there, the next bit here, which comes from Miguel, which I wholeheartedly agree. I think this is probably one thing that we hit hard on here at Boostability, which is use Google My Business. And to be quite frank, again, that's not just optimizing it. It is actually using the tools that Google My Business provides you in the form of questions and answers, in the form of posts, allowing people to actually bookmark or kind of set appointments there. If you're not using those features and your business can use them, make sure that you prioritize now time to actually go and use those features. Especially anything related to COVID restrictions, anything like that, to be quite frank, is being favored with Google My Business data. If you're looking for store hours, while it is other government sites and different things that are coming up around regulations, it is the Google My Business and Map section that actually is popping up first with, as far as Google can tell, the most accurate information and the latest information. So again, make sure you are using Google My Business to its fullest extent. If you haven't looked at that thing in like 6 months or even 3 months, go back in and see what Google may have added for you. Depending on your vertical, they have made some huge headways in terms of functionality and different things that they're trying to incorporate in there so that you can pull more customers and more business.
Colton, I think that's such an important point because a lot of people set up their GMB and then it's kind of set it, forget it, and they walk away and they're like, oh, I already did that. But I love that you're reminding people that Google's constantly updating this. There's more features and functionality, and it's more important now than ever to make sure that you are up to date, especially as people are searching and that's getting more priority in the SERP.
Yeah, I mean, just to give like a quick example, I was looking through a mechanic last week and their profile, just doing some kind of review and QA. And they actually were allowed in Google My Business to basically put how far of an area they're willing to provide for free. So like, I will go 10 miles to help you fix your car, or there is an additional cost. Again, those are things that Google is providing, just saying, hey, this is probably a common trend that others are doing on this particular vertical and profile type. And so because of that, this might be information you want to fill out. That, again, just can't be understated how probably frequent that is happening across different verticals. And so it's one of those where, yeah, if you've said it and you forgot about it, make sure you're going back in and using that, especially in some of the trends that we'll get into later on. Google My Business is going to be kind of one of the last strongholds when it comes to organic search and specifically local search, especially when it comes to kind of pulling that free traffic in, if you will, and that highly qualified traffic. All right, next slide here. All right, and then one of the last trends here, this is heavily going off of essentially COVID and the trending that we're seeing there, as well as kind of what I'm seeing internally with our own data, is essentially a surge in local businesses. So there have been a lot of changes, especially at the beginning and mid of last year. You had a lot of businesses close their doors. You've had a lot of them change kind of their entire business models. And one thing that seems to be kind of a peaking trend around the corner here is local businesses kind of resurging, or more people trying to essentially start up a local business. Now, fortunately, with kind of the days of Google and the internet, the days of needing, a physical store or physical location are not necessarily required, for some businesses and for some service types. And so because of that, when we say local business here, the reference here is specific to people starting up, some sort of business, offering it in a local area, but they may not actually have a physical presence there. It may just be digital only. They may offer to go and meet you in somewhere that might be public. Again, a lot of people have been doing this, things like cleaners, different things like that, where they just simply operate out of their home and they offer the service to a certain area. I highly anticipate, and a lot of people do in the industry, that is going to increase, possibly double the amount of small businesses that are out there, just because there is huge opportunity now. And because it is so easy to get started with a website, put your services out there. And then obviously one big piece of this is unemployment. A lot of people are, potentially out of work, and this might be kind of the spur that they need to do their own thing, kind of take charge of their own destiny. So if you're a small business already, something I would keep an eye on is just kind of who your competition is, who's coming into that. And if this is something you're considering, I would highly advocate for it. Again, there's a lot of opportunity here, and kind of the greatest time to start a business without a ton of risk and a ton of investment. All right, next one. All right, user-generated content. So now we're kind of moving into the website aspect of things, specifically around content here. So user-generated content, not a new concept, but for small businesses, it is likely to be something that will become bigger. And especially as things go forward, you have a lot of places that have been utilizing user-generated content for years, maybe even just started recently making big pushes here. If you have a business at all, again, whether local, national, e-commerce, whatever it might be, user-generated content is going to be the best way for you to essentially scale your content output and just kind of scale your presence online without having to go, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt trying to pay, individual writers to do that. And there's all sorts of different ways to utilize them. The graph that we've got here just kind of walks through some of those ways. So for example, the first one might be business research, and specifically, what questions are your customers asking you? Is there a common one that you get? Are they asking about pricing? Some of those different things that if you're getting those questions constantly, you may want to reevaluate what you have out there on your website, because there might be a good chance that either you don't have that information there, or maybe it's kind of segmented or obscured or just kind of not easily found by people looking at your business. That kind of bleeds right into the SEO aspect of that, is that if you are constantly getting things about, let's say your services, or maybe even kind of pricing, or even your process, those are things that you will want to add to your website and want to add as part of kind of your SEO efforts. The more detail that you can add into your content, especially on your website and posts and social and different things like that, the better off you're going to be when people are searching for specific things, again, around research, but maybe even around broader service things, adding in qualifiers like best, cheapest, longest standing, different things like that, most experienced. So again, you'll want to bleed that into your SEO. And then content generation obviously comes as a part of that. What comes to mind for me is kind of brand ambassadors, if you will, people that are loyal to your brand. They love it. This might be some of your most dedicated customers. You should absolutely be leveraging them and potentially offering them not a job, but essentially giving them benefits for providing content. They're going to know maybe some fun things to talk about that they could integrate with your service, maybe just some fun things in general about your kind of vertical or what you're potentially providing there. And in turn, you can incentivize them, give them some discounts, maybe give them some merchandise, maybe even give them some free product or some free service. Again, just kind of in exchange for, hey, give me some content, write a blog for me this month, and I'll give you something else. It's another way to just kind of get some free content, if you will, or even just kind of discounted content from a user for other users. Customer service is a big part of that as well. Again, forums, chats, FAQs, those are all huge, especially when it comes to customer service. Obviously, on your social channels, you want to have that out there as well. But same thing with the brand ambassadors. If you can potentially pull one of them in and just say, hey, I need some help, kind of moderating this forum or moderating my Facebook page, you'd be surprised how many people are willing to do that, especially if they're going to get some sort of kickback. They love your brand, they love your product. And so why not, let them enjoy that product and that service and your brand a little bit more, build up their loyalty towards the brand even more, but then also get a little bit of help out of them as well. That again bleeds right into, locating some sense of community. That could be on Facebook, it could be on Twitter, it could be on social, it could be physical, right? It could be part of a club or something like that, or maybe you do want to have either digital meetups or, kind of in real life meetups. Basically, at the end of the day, by kind of leveraging your brand ambassadors, allowing them to help with that, you're going to start to create a community around yourself. And that is truly what you need going forward. A good example of this would be like Yelp. We don't typically think of that as a massive, community, but it is, and they generate a lot of content. People use Yelp as users and as a community and just kind of as a job, so to speak. And it's incredibly helped them specifically rank for long-term things, very short-term things. Basically, it's allowed them to rank for things that they potentially in some cases shouldn't rank for because they have the freshest, newest information. And it's costing them, I would say, a very fractional amount of what it should be costing them because they're brand loyalists and brand ambassadors, if you will. And then kind of the underpin of all this, right, is conversions, right? You want to have sales. And if you're doing these things right, you're going to be showing that, hey, you do care about your customers. You have other people that care about your brand. People are seeing that interaction. And in turn, good reviews, different things like that, how you're responding to maybe negative reviews, how you're interacting with that, especially from user-generated content, can lead to better relationships, better sales, maybe even get other people interested in your business, maybe looking to buy them, sell it, whatever it might be. So there's all sorts of different ways, especially if you can create some sort of, user-generated content machine, the value of your business can take off, and obviously it helps you in the short term as well, getting content and expanding your online presence. So definitely could talk all day about user generated content, but let's dive into the next one. So next one comes from our CEO Gavin. Absolutely spot on with this one. Basically his summary here was, on top of, he also noted local businesses or just businesses in general not having a storefront. And from that, he kind of went into specifically make sure that you're offering different ways for your customers to interact with your business, not just communication, but also buying your service, maybe setting up appointments. If you don't have at least 2 or 3 avenues that somebody can schedule an appointment automatically, not needing you in the loop, you're missing out. The same goes for sales. If somebody can buy your service ahead of time, maybe even set an appointment, that frees you up from having to make a sale. It allows you to get some revenue in the door before you ever potentially interact with somebody. We've have a few case studies ourselves where we saw that, at the beginning of kind of the pandemic, business models that you would never even think that could go, online or digital only, made the pivot, made the shift, and they won big, and they probably are still reaping that benefit. So again, going forward, that is something that you as a business should absolutely be utilizing. Basically, again, functionality to have your business or to have your customers interact with your business, talking to you, getting quotes, setting appointments, buying your product, buying your service. Those should all be things that just to be frank, are going to become normal. They're going to become standard. And so if you're not doing it, you're going to get behind the trend and behind the curve here. Not to mention, it's just the future. It's going to help you kind of modernize the way that you potentially get customers and get sales in the door, and could open up channels that you otherwise would have never had before. All right.
And the more
Next.
useful your website is, the longer people will stay on it. And that's sending positive signals to Google, which does impact your SEO as well.
Oh yeah, all of this kind of underpins with you're trying to create the best user experience possible. And in some cases that might be direct, sales, somebody doing research. The point here is that we don't necessarily always know who our best customers are, if you will. And customers might be the wrong word there, but we don't know who's staying on our site the longest. We don't necessarily know who's always buying from us. And so because of that, we have to kind of expand the net, put as much out there as we can, so that way we can kind of accept anybody coming back in the door. All right, so the last two here are going to be around kind of the trends that we see kind of going forward, and specifically the landscape for organic search. The first one that I've got here is basically a surge in competition. We're seeing this already, obviously, in the e-commerce space. There's been a huge upswing in people essentially just willing to purchase things online, or even shifting their entire kind of, buying, journey online. I'll give one example for at least me personally here. We do Walmart pickup orders at least once, maybe even 2 times a week. And that is something that honestly, we're just going to keep doing. Even if the pandemic were to end tomorrow, it's so convenient and it's great and it's easy. And I don't spend like an extra $30 going through, the checkout line where they have all the extra goodies there. So because of that, I love it. It's something that I have fundamentally changed how I will do grocery shopping going forward. Other people are doing the same, especially around clothing, school supplies, different things like that, business supplies. So, so basically the point here is that online and organic competition is going to skyrocket, and it already is. We saw this heavily kind of in 2019 bleeding into 2020 with ad spends, where social media platforms just got decimated when it came to how much you had to spend versus what you might get from social ads. The organic space is getting even worse because anybody can go on and anybody can generate content. And so, the point here is make sure that you're keeping in mind that competition is only going to get harder. And especially with the pandemic in play, anybody who is trying to target organic is going to have an even harder time. And this is where leveraging user-generated content, making sure that you're leveraging all the other avenues like Google My Business and what they offer there is going to be so key. Basically, you just need to be putting out, if you did, let's say that you spent an hour of your week last year kind of working on your online presence, you should probably, triple or more that time, just to make sure that you're actually investing enough to compete with those that are coming online, those that are going to be increasing their own kind of spends on organic, different things like that. So basically, if you're already behind the ball on getting your organic up and going and getting on top of search, you're going to have a really hard time heading into 2021 and beyond. And if you're already doing something there today, you need to start increasing that. Now is the time to dedicate more spend, more budget, more people, more resources there, so that way you can keep up with what's going to come down the funnel and already is, and obviously beyond. So huge thing here. Again, even if you're local, you're still not necessarily safe from this bubble. If the trends are holding true, where more businesses are going to become, online only, and therefore are servicing a local area without a physical presence, it means that you're not going to see the 4 other stores that get popped up around the corner from you. They're going to be digital, and it's going to be basically in the search that you're going to start seeing those people creep into your territory, if you will. So organic competition, it's going to get worse. Make sure you're staying on top of that. And then this is one particular trend I personally am heavily invested in. It's basically data that we're getting from either search providers or just data around search in general. Over the last few years, it's been a pretty common trend for data to get pulled back. I think around 2014, 2013, when Google moved to secure search, everybody lost keywords in their organic, analytics, different things like that. They still have it in Search Console, but it's not robust. It's not as robust as it was back then. You get some queries that still get kind of bundled under different things. You still have bots that might get picked up on, like your Search Console stuff. So the point, being here, data specifically from Google is only going to become more and more restrictive, or it's just going to be eliminated overall, or in some cases it may even get put behind a paywall. That ultimately leads to you as a business owner making sure that you're trying to invest in ways to get your own data. Make sure that you're trying to invest in the proper resources like a data analyst or even an SEO person to try to understand what's currently happening with the data that you have. And again, trying to set up channels so that way you can start getting your own data. I think it's really basic here, making sure that you have analytics, making sure you have Search Console, but you'd be surprised how many people actually only have one or the other, or don't even have both on there, or don't even have one on there. And so because of that, again, just like everything else, if you haven't been doing that, now is the time to get going with that. And if you have a bunch of data sitting there, you have analytics sitting there, but you're not using it, now is the time to start using that before it potentially gets hidden or stowed away, or even just gets truncated under something else. I don't know how many people have kind of went through the newest analytics from Google, but that's another segment where you can pull the data out by kind of applying specific filters, but some things are just not easy to get to anymore and could potentially get pulled away or even pushed back or even hidden within Google Analytics. So again, now is the time. Make sure that you're getting data sources set up. If you don't have them already, if you already have those, make sure you're leveraging them. And if you're not sure if you have either, talk to somebody who can, either help you evaluate those things or even just help you set those things up. So data, it's a huge question mark, especially going forward. Make sure that you're doing everything you can to try to stay on top of that. The companies that are going to come out ahead in 2022 and 2023 are the people that are leveraging data today, and obviously will continue leveraging data in the future. So make sure that you're keeping on top of that trend, and obviously if you need help, make sure that you are trying to work with somebody to get help on that. All right, so quick takeaways, just kind of the high level bullet points. If you don't take anything away, take a screenshot of this particular page or even write it down, whatever you want to do. Basically, for Google My Business specifically, make sure that you're optimizing it to its fullest extent. If you have one picture up there, you better be adding 10 more next week. If you don't have a video on there, you better get one added next week or hopefully this week. Make sure that you're also using, again, the posts that they allow in there. If you can allow booking, make sure that you're allowing and hooking that up to your business. That way you can start getting people in the door automatically. And then obviously make sure that you're managing reviews. This is all basic stuff, but a lot of people don't actually dedicate the time here. If you have 4 different reviews on there and you've never responded to one, go and respond to them, even if it's just a thank you. Show people that you actually care about them responding back. And even if it's negative, that is a huge opportunity for you to put out there how you might deal with a negative situation or something that maybe just wasn't ideal for either party. It goes a long way to show somebody, hey, I'm a human, I work with other people in real life, and here's how I actually resolve things. And it could make or break a sale, a month, maybe even 3 months, or even years down the line. So make sure you're prioritizing GMB, making sure that you're leveraging everything in there. When it comes to local, again, can't understate it. Make sure your business information is accurate. The same can be said for your website. If you haven't looked at that puppy in like 6 years, now is the time to go back through and basically make sure, are your unique selling points, are they still the same? Have they improved? Are they better? Are they worse, right? I mean, those are things that you want to make sure that you're shoring up and that you are putting out there to kind of the maximum extent of truth, if you will. You just want to make sure that it's accurate, make sure that it is reliable, and make sure that it is something that is going to help your users at the end of the day. All right, when it comes to your website, again, we keep stating it here, but content is key. Make sure you have detailed content out there. You want to make sure that you have engagement options. Again, not just chat, not just talking with somebody. Make sure you allow them to make appointments, kind of do what they want to do and the actions that they want to take on your website. Give them purchasing options. It's kind of funny, if you have a service, I don't think a whole lot of us think, well, I can't charge early for a service. Sure you can. It's called a retainer. It's called an appointment fee. It's called a setup fee. Start getting those today, so that way you can, maybe add a new source of income coming in. Maybe you can start allowing people to buy how they want to buy. Questions and answers, huge. Voice search is heavily driven off of questions and answers. So if you've ever wondered how you get into voice search, it's questions and answers, and then making sure that it's marked up or formatted correctly in a QA type thing, format. So again, questions and answers, that helps you automatically kind of get eligible for voice search. So if you're not doing that or haven't even looked at your FAQs or don't even have one, again, now is the time. Start going through, creating those, setting them up. And if you're not sure what questions to ask your audience, ask your users. Again, that's part of that user-generated content model. Ask for feedback. Ask what they need or what they're not getting from you, so that way you can go and add it so that future people can have that information readily available for them. Obviously, all of this hopefully underpins the fact that you just need to increase the user experience on your site. If it's clunky, if it's cluttered, if it's a dark website, make sure you're going through, brightening up, just basically making sure that you're staying fresh. If you're not sure, I will be the first one to admit, I can't tell you under the sun what you have to do. But if you're not sure, look at your competition. Who is currently winning today? What might be giving them the edge there? That is going to be essentially your exact visual and your exact guideline to what you potentially need to do on your website to increase your user experience and just increase your overall presence and kind of brand online. And then last of all, content here. Personalization is key. I think Kristine will get into this specifically around email and just some of that stuff, but personalization is absolutely huge, and specifically personalizing to your audience, to your area. The one thing that I think we constantly get here at Boostability is, hey, I want to target 4 different locations, but it's the same service. And realistically, there are always nuances. There might be an additional charge. There might be something specific that you need, maybe a slight variation to your service. And those are the things that are key that nobody else is putting out there, that you can put out there to, again, maybe pull in some very specific searchers, but also to put out that you're an expert, that you actually know what you're talking about, that there's a reason that you need to service a town, 4 cities over. So make sure that you are absolutely personalizing that content. Obviously, if you're doing any sort of direct campaign towards individuals or maybe some past customers, those absolutely should be personalized for them. Maybe even integrating something that they bought before. So for example, I saw that you had a shampoo, maybe you have a dog. Here's a new service that I offer as a part of that, right? Those are different ways that you can essentially show that you care, that you pay attention to them, and that you would like like them to come back in. And here's something that might be better for them, or something that they could maybe use more than, maybe a generic service or something like that. So make sure you're using that. And then, I think the big question here is, how do I do that at scale? How do I actually do that if I have $1,000 a month, where do I put that? And, for content, that's absolutely where you should be trying to drive that. But if you can start leveraging your users, your brand loyalists, your brand ambassadors, you can essentially start getting content potentially for free, or at least really discounted. And, that $1,000, maybe you can push that somewhere else because, hey, content's shored up, content's coming in, it's fresh, it's new, and it's from people that are willing to help you in your brand for maybe a small kickback or whatever it might be there. So those are the key SEO takeaways. Obviously, as we kind of go through towards the end, if you have any questions, we'll answer them there. But, in general, if you haven't been doing organic, which I don't think is kind of anybody who's taking it serious, but if you haven't been, or you haven't been spending that much time here, you're already behind, is kind of the only way I can put it. And you have to make sure that you're doing everything you can to stay on top of the bubble that's going to be coming in 2021. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Kristine.
Awesome. Colton, thanks so much. So now we're going to dive into 2021 trends you need to know about e-commerce growth and emerging strategies impacting the market. So let's jump in. First up is e-commerce's growth and rapid acceleration due to the pandemic. So as we know, social distancing and government shutdowns meant that consumers had to transition buying behavior from brick and mortar to online almost overnight. Businesses who were already selling online or who were able to make the switch really capitalized on this new trend. And the good news is that if you haven't begun selling online yet, please, you still can and should. In fact, e-commerce is slated to hit new heights in 2021. So now is the time. So to really understand the impact of this huge shift, let's look at some key data points from 2020 that are propelling us into 2021. So first up, quarter over quarter in Q3 2020 versus Q3 2019, there was a 37% increase in online sales. That is massive. There's a 32.4 year over year growth of e-commerce sales, with nearly 1 in every $5 being from online orders. And that's just massive. We basically accelerated 10 years faster how long it would have traditionally taken to get here. So the market has significantly changed, and that also brings on a lot of big new opportunity. So now when you think about e-commerce, you have to also think about selling on your own website and having your own e-commerce store, but don't not pay attention to the hypergrowth of marketplaces. And marketplaces are things like Amazon, eBay, Walmart. Marketplace growth has exploded, and we're going to get into the why soon, but 63.2% of all online sales are taking place in the top 10 e-commerce marketplaces. So number one, Amazon has basically 40% of that market share. Walmart is the next new contender. Walmart is taking Amazon on head to head, and they are turning their platform into a massive marketplace. We also have eBay at 4.9% of the market. Apple is a huge contender. The Home Depot is a huge contender. So you can go into these brick and mortar stores and buy things, but now on their online marketplaces, you can buy from a wide variety of people. Best Buy and Target had the biggest growth during 2020, with a 105% year-over-year growth for Best Buy and 103% year-over-year growth for Target. And they did this through multiple things, but one of them was capitalizing on buy on the app and you can pick up curbside. That for Best Buy and Target was their biggest driver. That was a new initiative for them that really skyrocketed during the pandemic. So again, showing how the market's changing, pay attention to it, and then take advantage of these opportunities. So if we go to the next slide, along with the significant e-commerce sales growth that we saw in 2020, there are new market emerging opportunities in 2021 that you can and should take advantage of. So let's kind of go through these. The first one is the growing international e-commerce opportunity. So as e-commerce has rapidly accelerated in America, it's also exponentially growing around the world. And now is the peak window to capitalize in this growth. It's going to be a lot easier to grow today internationally than it will in 10 years as all these different markets are maturing. And we have a great quote on this point from John LeBaron at Pattern on the next slide that we'll get to in a little bit. The next one is 3D and AR shopping, which is called visual commerce. And so 3D and augmented reality shopping experiences are also revolutionizing the online shopping experience, and they're improving online sale conversions as well, because it's kind of mimicking that experience you had in brick and mortar where you can try clothes on, see how something, might look, and they're mimicking that online through a mobile experience and a desktop experience. And some of the brands that are doing that best are the Home Depot, IKEA. Here's an example in the top right corner of Wayfair, where you can shop for a chair and then hold that up in your room and see what it would actually look like in your room. Target, Sephora, Amazon, Nike, and Warby Parker are all doing an amazing job at this. So if you're not familiar with this technology, head to one of those platforms. I like it best on the mobile device because it's so easy to move around and check it out. You can play with all this stuff for free. Now, the good news is that Shopify is working to help democratize this technology. So it's not just available to the big brands. So if you have an e-com store, you can now use the Shopify AR shopping feature on their platform for SMBs. And WooCommerce also has a bunch of AR shopping plugins that you can add to your site as well. So the big brands are really training consumers to get used to this technology and expect this technology. And so it's something you should take advantage of. Start using it as well now that these tools are available to everyone. All right, the next one after that is marketplace brand management. So marketplace brand management is really more important than ever. So when you're selling your product on a marketplace like Amazon or Alibaba, one of your largest threats are bad sellers who will copy your products. They're going to sell fakes, undercut your pricing, post fake reviews, and much more. So you not only need to invest in growing your brand and your sales and your presence on these marketplaces because they have 60% of the buying power online, but you really have to invest time protecting your brand because these bad players can do so much damage to your brand and your pricing, which impacts your pricing across stores, online and offline all over the place. So big investment to focus on. The next thing is robotic process automation. So robotic process automation is all about automating the customer experience. It improves conversion and retention as well. One of the industries that's doing this the best is the dental industry. And there's an example at the bottom left of the screen. They were one of the first to adopt automated text message appointment reminders, which is brilliant because you make sure that that person's coming, so you're not losing that time. If they don't show up for the appointment, they can at least text you back and reschedule. It makes it nice for you and you can save money, but it also is such a great customer experience. I love text appointment reminders. They're the best. And in 2021, as customers are getting more used to this, you really want to think about all the different customer touch points for your business and the communications that you are doing with your customers that you can automate, whether that's text messaging, email marketing, and beyond. Another opportunity is supply chain. So this is a really interesting one. As e-commerce continues to grow, so does the importance of supply chain management. And this is an opportunity for you if you're looking to start a new business or expand your products or services to get into this sector and provide different solutions because there is an increasing demand all around the world for supply chain management. It's also a great place for kids coming out of college to look for job opportunities, as this is such a big booming new market as the acceleration of online shopping just continues to grow. And the last one here is ethical marketing. So with more people shopping online, there's an increased transparency into brands and what they stand for. And customers post reviews and pictures, as Colton was mentioning, all across the web. And they're talking about how businesses conduct their business with them, the things they stand for, what they like about a brand. And consumer feedback on these review sites really, as Colton also mentioned, changes the way people think about them and can be that pivotal point between someone deciding if they want to spend their money with you or not. So more people are thinking about what are a company's initiatives outside of just their core product offering. Are they green? Do they stand for something? Are they a one-for-one program like Tom's? And they're deciding to spend their dollars with like one brand versus the other based on these things. So as a business operator and a marketer, really make sure to go back and when you're thinking about your plan for 2021, review your messaging, review your positioning, and promote your purpose because people really want to resonate with that and create community around that. So this brand Bite you see here is a new toothpaste company, and their mission is zero waste. So they really want to reduce the trash being produced from plastic toothpaste bottles. And they created toothpaste in a new tablet form that they deliver to you in a glass bottle with refillable packets. And they promote this mission all over everything, on their product packaging, on their product itself, all over social media, and they are growing at a rapid rate. And they're collecting really loyal brand followers who are telling all their friends, hey, stop using traditional toothpaste. You've got to do this. It's good for the planet. So here's a great example of how that can come to life for your brand and how you can really promote your brand purpose to make a difference. All right, so here are 3 snippets from our business leaders in our 2021 trend report that we'll send out after this webinar as well, so you guys can read the full report. But I really wanted to highlight these. So number 1, as we mentioned before, the growing international e-commerce opportunity. Pattern is one of the leading companies in e-commerce growth. And John LeBaron, the CRO, says international e-commerce is becoming more and more interesting every year, and more brands will continue to look outside the US for growth. So maybe this is the year for you to look outside the US for growth. And e-commerce is all about momentum. And I love what he says here, that as a brand gets established in a market, it's much harder to displace them. So this comes down to speed and the importance of getting to market fast. And that if you are getting into markets like the Middle East today, it's going to be a lot easier to win now than in 10 years. So number 2 is brands with a story and a cause will win. So we were just talking about this with the example with Bite. People are thinking about brands in terms of, are they green? Are they cruelty free? Are they vegan? Do they support a cause? And more people will vote with their dollar if it's easier to tell this, and it's easier to tell the story online versus on a shelf. And number 3 is robotic process automation. And I love what Jeff Tomlin, the CMO and co-founder, say here, that consumers expect a delightful online experience. And so go back and make sure that in 2021, your online experience is as optimized as possible for SEO and the customer experience, so that they come back and they continue shopping with you. People are now jumping around deciding who they want to go with, and having a great brand story and then having a great experience is one of the number 1 ways to convert. I know I constantly use Amazon and Target because it's so easy. And so they're always grabbing my business. And so with so many SMBs looking to transact and communicate online, the automation of these different tasks, like we mentioned, the meeting scheduling, notifications, invoicing, is so important. And there's no time to waste. So start focusing on robotic automation now. All right. So let's talk about what is making these marketplaces such rapid growth environments. It's primarily because of one thing, and that one thing comes down to one-click convenience. And Amazon had this on lock for a long time, and I think that their trademark on it expired in like 2017, and it's kind of opened the floodgates. But the fact that you can set up your account with a credit card on Amazon and like Target and make purchases with one click has really fueled their business model and created customer expectations that others are capitalizing on. So as we mentioned before, Walmart is like coming heavy and hard into the Amazon marketplace market. They're growing at a rapid clip. And there's a lesson here that we can take from these guys. If Amazon was able to get such a large market share in such a short amount of time because of that ease of use, and because they kept that customer's credit card and kept it protected and you could check out with one click, how can you try and emulate that for your business? How can you make the shopping experience as easy as possible? Customers are really expecting that now. I know even myself, if I try and shop somewhere and it's difficult, I'm out. They lost me, and I just go somewhere else. And I usually go to the ease option and somewhere that I feel safe. So think about that as you're kind of defining your strategy. Also, as Colton mentioned, they're just going to continue getting more and more competitive. So get in the market now. Don't waste time and focus on optimizing your profile, protecting your brand, and doing all these things, because online is, it's just going to continue to grow faster and faster. So there's no time to wait. And as we said before, brand protection is so incredibly important. Companies like Gray Falcon specialize in protecting your brand on marketplaces like Amazon. So find a good partner like them, and they'll help you out. All right. So with more people spending more time online, cybersecurity becomes critically important. And, if you're a fan of chess, it's really advanced to center stage and is about to come take on your queen and your king. So pay attention, because websites are attacked 94 times per day on average, and nearly 13 million websites are infected with malware. And these statistics are going to continue to increase in 2021. People are spending more and more time online. They're conducting business online. Especially if you're selling online, make sure you are really looking at your cybersecurity. You have good partners. SiteLock is a fantastic platform. We were really excited to get these great insights from Damon Fieldgate, their CEO. So just expect people to attack your site, and be defensive and be proactive and get ahead of that with good cybersecurity software. All right, so another major trend to watch out for in 2021, and this is very popular in kind of the larger B2B enterprise space, and it's trickling down to SMBs as well, is called ABM, which is account-based marketing. So in case you're not familiar with ABM, I included a quick overview description from HubSpot. Account-based marketing is a focused growth strategy in which marketing and sales collaborate to create personalized buying experiences for high-value accounts. And with ABM, you focus on personalizing the buyer's journey and tailoring all your communications, your content, your ad strategies, your campaigns, like everything towards this specific account, which gives you greater ROI and boosts customer loyalty. So as you can see on the charts, traditional marketing is about casting a wide net. And with ABM, you flip it and you target particular accounts and then you nurture them through, and then that ends up getting you a big customer base. So this is a huge trend. And if we go to the next slide, Demandbase is one of the top ABM software platforms in the business. And their CEO, CPO, and CMO have some really fantastic things for us to focus on. Number one, the fact that sales funnel management converts sales faster. So this concept is all about marketing and sales working together. They used to kind of be separate departments. They have to be so incredibly connected now. And ABM is all about taking marketing messages into the sales process and the sales process into the marketing process and connecting those. The next is data-driven decisions rule marketing decisions. So as Colton was mentioning, look at your data, use different technology that's available to you. If you can use a Demandbase, they're phenomenal. You can use Google and a whole bunch of other platforms to really splice the stuff together so you can make the right decisions based on data. And the next is that the digital journey just continues to leap forward. So, you really need to focus on how marketing and sales will go from alignment to integration, and ABM technologies enable you to do that. They connect like your marketing messaging into your like your Salesforce, and you can see that customer journey through like all the different touch points. So use technology. There's amazing platforms out there that can help you. All right, so the last one, and then we're going to pass the mic to Kristine, is work from home. So home is the new office. Kramer Hope from Comparably says that, this is really going to change the way employers hire and what employees want, because you can't rely on a cool office space or a fridge full of snacks to attract and retain talent anymore. You really have to adapt to this new world, and employees want a mission-driven company. They want opportunities for career advancement, and they want solid leaders that they can trust. Another thing to do is leverage these relationship and collaboration softwares like Zoom for virtual meetings, Slack for team communication, and also be aware that recruiting is going to look different. So the power of remote workforces has been unlocked. It's going to continue to do so. And that's great because you don't have to hire someone in your local market anymore. You can hire people from all over the world and all over the country. So just be aware of that. Along with corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion policies are going to evolve. So we'll do really quick takeaways, and then we'll jump into content and social media. So again, what you need to know is e-commerce is here to stay. It's growing fast. Get in now before it gets even more competitive. Sell in marketplaces. Think about cybersecurity. On the ABM side, operate in an ABM mindset. That's that personalized customer experience, and then aligning and integrating your data and technology platforms between sales and marketing. On the customer experience side, you want to automate your communications as much as possible, text messaging, email, 3D AR shopping. And on the brand operations side, work from home is here to stay. Think about your business's ethical, mission-driven statements, and then use virtual tools like Zoom and Slack. Awesome. Kristine, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Amanda and Colton. This has been so great to hear from both of you. And I'm excited to walk everyone through some content marketing and social media methods. So I've worked in content and communications my entire professional career. And if there's one consistency across this whole time, it's how important these are for every single business. I've seen content make or break a business website. It matters that much. And even more in 2021 than ever before. So during this, I'll talk to you about some expert insights into why you need to improve your content and what's kind of causing an evolution in content and social media marketing, and then some key strategies that you can use to succeed. So like I said a second ago, good content matters. Colton's talked about that. Amanda's talked about that. It's come up throughout this entire thing. So content matters more than ever. But I mean, we talk about this a lot. So why? It's because it's what helps you stay relevant, up to date, and it keeps you in the game across the entire digital universe, essentially. So take a look at these bullets that we've taken some from our 2021 trends report to kind of help you plan out a successful content strategy this year. So content matters because all the recent Google algorithm updates really emphasize the importance of good and relevant content on your website and all digital channels. So Google wants to see that you're regularly updating your content, that you're providing something useful for your website visitors. And it will reward those who take that into account. Good content boosts your SEO. But simple as that. So content matters because the user intent has also changed drastically in the past few years, both because of the pandemic and in spite of it also. So the reason people search online is different than it used to be, and you need to be prepared for that. Amanda talked about that a little bit in her talk. They want something easy, something they can get right to their house. Consumer habits have changed. So essentially the user intent of why they're coming to your website has also changed. And good content really helps you connect with your customers in a human way. That's becoming ever more important along the customer journey. People want human connections, not just another brand that's trying to sell them something. They want to know why they should do business with you. We saw this a lot at the very beginning of the pandemic, that people's loyalties really changed. It was who could help them rather than who has always helped them. And, you know, things have stabilized a little bit since that time, but customer loyalty is still up for grabs for those who provide a good customer experience for them. Content, the next one is content really helps you to establish your brand. It shows your customers and potential customers who you are and why you're the best at what you do. And it also establishes you as a trusted resource. We'll give a couple examples here in a minute, but once you establish that trust with your consumers, it's really hard for another brand to come in and poach that loyalty out. So one thing that across the board, all of our experts, and I totally agree on, it's the last point here, is that video content will matter more than it ever has before. It's growing in popularity. You really need to start incorporating that into your digital content strategy. So let's go a little bit more into video specifically right now. Look at this graph right here. I pulled this from HubSpot research team. They found that a whopping 54% of people prefer video content. That is massive. And they want it from the brands and the businesses that they support. So video is seen as really an easily digestible bits of content that can help answer a question or enhance knowledge or provide some entertainment. There's so many different things that you could do with a video content. So social media or social videos, they're also on this report as a separate category, but also shows that people want to consume videos over things, maybe like a blog or a white paper sometime. I mean, don't get me wrong, those types of content are still incredibly important, so don't push those off. But people are craving video content, and you need to find a way to provide that for them. And that doesn't necessarily mean hiring a professional crew to bring them in and like showcase your products. It can be as simple as, like, most phones are super advanced now. You can just take it out and do a quick how-to with your product, or you can walk people through your store or show what steps you're taking to keep them safe right now, or you can do a quick interview with your CEO and talk about your mission for your company. Anything like that. I mean, and then most operating systems, or even on your phone, have like iMovie or Windows Movie Maker, or just things that are built in where you can make quick little easy edits and then post them on YouTube or on your social channels. So you don't have to have some professional thing in order to make it work. So we'll talk a little bit more about social video here in just a minute, but just know that video content is incredibly important this year in particular. So right now I want to talk a little bit about building the consumer trust through content. Good content is essentially how people connect with your brand. As you can kind of see through this word cloud, there's a whole lot that can come out of having good content. It helps your SEO. It helps build your relevance and trust. It helps you really understand your user identity and their intent on your website. It helps you build your brand. There's so much more. I could talk about this all day long. So you want to frame your content in a way that makes it shareable. This can be in the form of tutorials. This is industry tips and tricks. Something we do a lot is how-to blogs or content that specifically answers one question. So think about what people would search for when they're looking for your industry, and then answer that question. So for SEO, something in particular would be like, how to improve my content marketing. That would be a whole blog post that you could write about, something like that. Post those on your website and your social profiles, including YouTube. People go there a lot. I mean, you can find just about instructions on just about anything on YouTube because people have made these kind of how-to videos. Users like to share that kind of content. Then you can tell your story and tell your users about your services and what you do, and let them know what you can do for them. So by that, it helps you stand out against your competitors and really establishes you as a leader in your industry. So remember that helpful things are rarely boring. Keep that in mind. Helpful things are very rarely boring. And even if they are maybe objectively to people in general, for your specific industry, when people have a question, they'll come and they will see you as an expert there. So use visuals and videos as a way to make things shareable. And even if there are essentially, you want to make sure that your quality content is decided by your audience. So if you're posting good things that people like to read, then they're going to keep coming back more and more. So make sure that you create more of that content that they engage with. So if someone likes a video and you wrote a similar blog post, but they don't engage with that as much, then maybe you could create more videos. Or if you write a how-to blog that really grows and explodes and you see traffic over a long period of time, you probably need to start doing more of that kind of content. So if you want people to dive deeper, then you can also link to it and make it easy for them to engage. So you write one really good how-to post, then you write a different one and you link back to the original one. Interlinking keeps people on your site and it keeps people engaged. So with that, I want to talk about a little bit about this thought from Dwayne Forrester, the VP of Industry Insights from Yext. He hits really hard about that kind of user intent and establishing you as that expert. He says, if you want to dig into expectations, customers really want to know what your business can do. Especially right now, they expect more answers and they expect clear answers. They don't want to have to go digging through your website to try to find what they want. And if they have to take maybe more than 2 or 3 steps, they're going to go somewhere else to someone who can answer it very quickly. So they're trying to make a decision that they can feel good about. So think about why you would search for something. Maybe you're trying to find, we all search every single day. Maybe you're trying to find a doctor for your family, or buying a TV, or getting your car fixed, or any other possible things. These are all everyday things that there's a whole bunch of stuff on the internet that could really kind of lead them astray. Make sure your industry or your blog, your website is trying to help establish your expertise. So your content is not really about getting people to that conversion through the typical funnel model. Think about it today. Because of good SEO, people can enter your website from any number of different pages. So do you have a good experience and an optimized, the kind of pyramid that Amanda talked about on all of them to keep them engaged? Think about how you can best optimize that through your content. That, as Dwayne says, pursuing that path alone won't always work. Over time, what will work is answering questions, building that trust, and being seen as an authoritative resource. We need to keep people engaged. And that's the ultimate goal of good content, is to keep people engaged. And then also from Andy, he says the messaging and content really needs to hit home. The generic email blasts to your base are just not really the best way right now to engage with your cohorts. Content needs to be targeted and meaningful, and customers expect more from brands and businesses that they support. And then spend the extra time. I know that content can take time, but it pays off in the end. It's totally worth it to make the personalized messaging that really resonates with your customer base, because they'll keep coming back over and over again.
Yeah, and to that point, let's say you do a piece of content, it usually takes around 6 months to get really top ranking, but then you get that top ranking and suddenly you have customers just coming to your website for free, right? Because you made that investment 6 months ago, where in order to get that same amount of traffic, you'd have to pay a lot of money on Google or on social networks to kind of buy that traffic to your site. The organic content will just bring an influx of customers. But be patient because it takes a little while. But once you start ranking, I mean, it's like liquid gold.
Absolutely. And we can get into all the technical details of that, and maybe we will in a future search sessions. But that good content, yes, it does take time, but it's worth the build. I mean, social media, like we'll talk about here right now, can help you with some immediate traffic, but to see that organic growth over time is absolutely worth it, I promise. So with that, social media, we kind of broke this up into two different sections because while content marketing and social media, they're definitely related, but they're definitely not the same. There's many strategies and approaches that you can take to be effective at both of them. So let's talk about some of the social media and learn from these experts. People say, or people really follow, think about this, the brands that they like. They follow the brands that they trust. We can all try to recruit more followers through different campaigns and different strategies, and that will work, but you have to make that connection with your customers. You have to really make yourself a part of their world, and they won't follow you essentially if they don't like you. So you want to make sure that what you put out there through your social channels is good and positive and keeps them engaged and keeps them coming back. So that's really the nature of today's social media world. You can have the best content to share with the most carefully strategized campaigns, but it will not make a lick of difference if you can't connect with your customers and show them how you can solve their problems, whatever they are, in a positive manner. So in order to be successful for your social media strategy in 2021, let's take a look at these points outlined by our experts. We'll get into them a little bit more. So first is making your posts shoppable. You've probably noticed a definite increase in posts in your feeds trying to sell you something, or you've probably even noticed a post or an item that has the price that's kind of right there in the middle of your news feed. These are new features where you can make your post shoppable right from your social media feeds. These kind of really became a big thing in 2020, and they're going to grow even more in 2021. But I want to point out that there's a difference between being shoppable and being salesy. Consumers don't like that if you're just obviously trying to push a product on them, unless you're a brand that they already love and they already follow every move you make. They're not going to really be engaged by someone saying, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this. So you want to be genuine, but you also want to seize these opportunities to sell your products directly through the platform. This took a huge step, and it kind of feeds into the e-commerce that Amanda was talking about. It's not too late to get started. If you want to just try maybe post one product through your social channels, and that will take you straight to a shopping cart on your website if they click through. This is a huge thing that you can take advantage of that's going to continue growing in 2021. So the next point is user-generated content. Colton talked a lot about that, so I'll go through this pretty quick. There's no one essentially more powerful for your brand than the customers you already have, those who are already loyal to your company. So you want to use that to your advantage. User-generated content will continue to grow in popularity, and it's a growing trend you don't want to miss. So we'll send this webinar out. If you want to learn a little bit more about user-generated content, we can go back and listen to what Colton said. He hit on that really well. And then, as I mentioned before, video content on social media will continue to dominate. Think about when you scroll through your social media channels, how many posts include video now? I'd say probably well over 80% of what's in my feed has a visual element of it, some sort, be it a video or an infographic or some photos. You need to do this. People don't just click on static posts anymore that don't have a visual element. You need to have that to be able to pull them in and eventually click through to your website or to engage to whatever you would like them to do. And then the next post is 2020 really showed us that we all have to think quickly and to really be prepared for anything. So even the best laid plans often need to be adjusted because of current world circumstances or changes within your industry. For good boostability, it might be that Google just released a new algorithm update and we need to reevaluate our SEO strategies and, tell people kind of what's going on. So, that could happen in a morning and we've got a blog post out that afternoon. So agile marketing is a common term and you really need to make sure that you're doing that. Rigidity is the enemy in today's digital marketing world. You definitely need to be agile in order to be successful, especially on social media. Another point here is that you want to take advantage of stories. A way you can, it all started kind of with Snapchat back in the early 2010s or so. Then Instagram and Facebook jumped on. They have stories, and Instagram has Reels now. Twitter has stories. LinkedIn has stories. These are all bits of micro content that people crave. I mean, think about TikTok itself. That is one platform that has all these little micro videos, and it boomed in popularity during the pandemic. And it's because of what we're calling micro content. But you need to take advantage of these opportunities on the different platforms where your audience is. And then finally, I only say this because of how powerful yet underutilized by brands these are. Use memes. Memes are what are keeping a lot of people going and positive during this continued pandemic. I mean, think about it. Bernie Sanders literally took over the internet last week. How many of you used him as part of your own social strategy? You could have him chilling in your store or sitting in your car or something. People love memes. So start using them in your social campaigns. So take a look at this graph by Social Media Examiner. This is how they break down the most important social platforms for marketers this year. Facebook still carries a lot of weight, even though it might not be the most popular. It's still where you can likely make the biggest impact depending on your audience. So a lot of brands will best reach customers through Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn campaigns above things like YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, and TikTok. But again, this is a broad perspective. If you have, for example, like a baby clothing brand, you might make a bigger impact on Instagram. Or if you fix cars, post a how-to video on YouTube. Know where your audience wants to connect with your brand. And if you don't know, you can start by doing some A/B testing to learn more, see where people engage with your content the most. And then here as well, if social media feels intimidating or like you can't handle all the possibilities, there's so many different platforms, there's so many different places to even connect with people. I promise that the effort is definitely worth the time. This same study by Social Media Examiner shows that the longer you work on improving your social media presence, the better chance of success you have. So look at this, that people with more than 5 years have a much better chance of reaching people than, you know, someone who's just starting. But that doesn't mean don't start. You're like, oh, I can't reach people for 5 years. No, start now, and you can work to build that authority. It can work quickly. And then, like I said, micro content memes. I want to take one last aside on this importance. Do you know why the TikTok has boomed so much in just a year? It's because it's an escape. It's a way to connect with people. And, you know, it's not long form content that takes 10 minutes to read or watch. That has its own place, but it's also not so short that you don't feel satisfied. You know, it's not like a 3-second video where like, wait, what just happened? Things like stories on social media and memes, really, they make people happy, bottom line. It's as simple as that. So by incorporating it into your strategy, it really helps show off your human side as a brand. It can make people laugh and go viral. And it really helps them take notice of you. And bottom line of it all is it really helps to build your brand exposure. These memes and these stories might be an indirect part of your brand or industry, but you know, it really provides an entertainment factor that people crave from these platforms right now. This type of content will only continue to boom in popularity. And as Mark Fisk from HID predicted, that this year we'll probably see a rise of advertising spend on TikTok simply because brands are starting to realize how big an audience they can reach with it, because people love this kind of content. It's kind of an escape from maybe having to quarantine again, or, you know, kind of from all the craziness that is happening this year. So I want to talk a quick quote from Laura Cole. She's the VP of marketing at Vivial. She's going into just kind of, again, about video itself. And she highlights, you know, video is king for sure, but also maybe something I didn't bring up earlier is that live streaming could be important. You know, if you're doing a how-to, you could do a Facebook Live, or, you know, you could post different ways of how you can engage with your customers during a live event, and then find just different ways to incorporate video into your social calendar. And I love this quote from her, that those do not risk falling dramatically behind this year. You need to figure out a way to incorporate video in 2021. And then from Miguel Vivas Angel Garcia from ADN Mexico, it's not just the traditional platforms that we were talking about. So you have Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, you know, all the different things, but maybe your specific vertical has something else. He says that in addition to his marketing job, he also has a gym, and they use an app called Cross Hero that manages their schedules. It keeps track of their appointments, but it also allows the people in his gym and the owners to kind of connect with their customers, like, hey, we have this new equipment, or we have this new class we're offering. So maybe think outside those normal social channels and connect on a personal level through different apps and social networks that are specific to your industry. So with that, here's just a couple of your key content and social takeaways. Essentially, content marketing itself is endgame. It is the #1 factor to help you rank on Google. And if you haven't figured out a plan to improve your content in 2021, you need to start today. Next is make your post shoppable on social media. With the acceleration of e-commerce, as pointed out by Amanda, people really want to shop where they spend their time. And a lot of that time is on social. You know, you're sitting on your couch in the evening, you're just going through your Facebook page. People want to shop where they're dedicating their time. So you want to make your post shoppable so that they can click and take them right back to your site and to the shopping cart and complete the transaction right where they're looking. And then this point touches both platforms. Video increases engagement on social. It's one of the most popular forms of content. So figure out ways to create it for both your SEO and social engagement on your website. And then content. Google's latest algorithm updates really put an emphasis on user intent and adjusting your content to match it. So figure out why users come to your website and how you can better tailor your content to their needs. Use your content to build up your brand identity and help you connect with your customers. And if your content doesn't match their intent, you probably either need a new content strategy or to cater to a different audience. So with that, we have the full report on our blog and our social channels, and we will also send up a follow-up email with a link to our 2021 digital trends report, so you can check that out. And I think we're going to dive right into questions, right, Amanda?
Yeah, I have one I want to hit right now from Vadim. So his question is, how can a local home repair contractor take advantage of e-commerce growth? We're more hands-on and an in-person service besides offering virtual appointments estimates, which can present their own challenges. So I'll take a crack at this. I'm going to go back to content, because one thing that's becoming really popular on Etsy and other platforms is that you can create kind of like a how-to for home repair based on a bunch of different products and services that you offer, and then package that up, and then people can download it. And so this is something you can create on your computer in like a Word document or a Keynote or a Google slide, and then you convert it to a PDF, and you can sell these. And these things are like taking off on Etsy. You could sell it for $5, you could sell it for $10. And then that becomes like a home repair guide, right? And then that also becomes a video that you put on YouTube. And then that both of those would click people directly through to your site, where then they can just call you to make an appointment. So what I would recommend is using a content marketing approach, kind of taking the things that Kristine was saying and the things that Colton was saying, and then putting this in different places, and then creating an opportunity that someone could actually buy something from you as an e-commerce play, but then that connects them back into your business because you're providing value to them. And kind of going into like what Kristine was saying with memes, anytime you're providing content that's helpful, whether it's a meme that makes someone happy or like a home repair guide, that creates value for that customer, and that starts building trust with them. And then that will help them convert the sale, because they might get your guide and they try to change a P-trap on their own, and then they're like, okay, whoa, this is too hard. I need the professional. Now they're going to call you because you were helping them. So I think some people think, oh, I don't want to do that because would that take away from the benefit of my service? When it actually, in the like internet era, it's the opposite. It builds trust. And then often people try and go do it on their own, and then they realize, you know, I really need a professional. Like my husband installed a fan, but it wasn't connecting all the way. And we thought, okay, we're going to save money to do that. And then I just called an electrician and he came and fixed it. So we wanted to try, because people want to try on their own, and we followed guides. And then we realized when we tried that we needed a professional, but we found that professional because they were helping us out like online with tips. So that's an idea.
I'll tack onto that one as well. I mean, I think one bit in the question there, right, where basically saying outside of pricing and all that, I think that is a huge opportunity and something to not just, you know, gloss over with that, right? I mean, realistically, you may not be able to provide an accurate price every time, but honestly, you can provide a ballpark without much issue, right? Like, yeah, drain repair, but without a lot more specifics or even seeing the job itself, it's really hard to give a price, right? But if you give a range, all of a
Yeah.
sudden that could help somebody either understand if they want to try the DIY route or if they actually want to go with the professional, right? And at least at that point, it gets your kind of hat in the arena of like, hey, here's approximately what I'd be looking for. Where if that person decides they don't want to call because they're shy or who knows, right? Or that's not how they particularly wanted to try to get a quote, you just miss somebody just for missing somebody. So I wouldn't glaze over that, try to provide that information. And then I think what Amanda's hitting on is absolutely key. Trying to provide some DIY, some tutorials. I mean, honestly, that could play right into it, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm giving you a quote for, let's say replacing your cabinets. I happen to have a video or a tutorial on how to do that. You can view that here. And, if that's 10 minutes of you going through it as a professional and just kind of, it's taking you a little bit of time, but you know what you're doing, there's a real good chance that could in turn sell somebody back, and somebody could be like, okay, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm going to go back to, potentially contacting you to have you do it for me.
Totally. When I watch those videos, which I love to do, and my husband always tries to do everything on his own first, we often are like, okay, yeah, I can't do this on our own. We need a pro. So yeah, they can be really helpful. Here's an SEO one, Colton, for you from Ben Halverson. He's saying, are there alternatives to GMB that a business should be utilizing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It will vary by kind of industry or vertical. Basically, if you're a plumber, you're going to probably have different things from a lawyer who's probably going to have something different from, let's say, a pet sitting business, right? And so realistically, what you need to do, Google search broadly your services, maybe even your just industry in general for your area, and see what profile sites come up. In some cases, that might be AngieList that you need to prioritize. And yeah, GMB might be something you need to focus on, but maybe it's not the first place you go when updating information. Again, I gave the example of lawyers like avo.com. I know that there's a few more like Find Law or Find Lawyer. Anyways, those places are going to be key, again, if you're a lawyer, and it may vary, right? Avo may have more kind of prominence and priority for somebody who's, let's say, in financial law, where something else may have a little bit more impact on, let's say, divorce law or mediation or something like that. So basically, again, just Google your services, do it broadly. If you're wanting to get into that big city that's a little ways away, do Google searches in that particular area and basically see what those top directory or listing sites coming up are, and then focus your attention there. I know that we've said that before, but realistically, you should be doing that, and you should keep doing that, maybe at a quarterly interval, maybe even bi-yearly. I would say at the very least once a year, just to make sure that you're hitting in the right places. I'll give you another one. Thumbtack is one where 2 years ago, I think it was relatively new, wasn't really showing up. Nowadays, if you're in that home improvement type space and even just kind of the services space, Thumbtack is a big player depending on where you are. Again, it could be Yelp still. It could be somebody else. You never know. So it does vary. It's going to be dynamic. Do some Google searches and prioritize your listing sites based off of what's coming up today.
Awesome. I have one more I'm going to jump into. Okay, so Megan was asking, and Colton, I think we could tag team this. Is there a way we can work with Google to update our reviews? We have reviews coming in constantly, but it hasn't been updated in over a year on our GMB. So here are some things that could be happening. Earlier in 2020, they paused reviews during the pandemic, but those came back in April. So there could be a few things. So number one, maybe your GMB has inaccurate listing information, and make sure that you've done that card that they send you so that you're authorized. Make sure that you don't have duplicate business listings. Sometimes there's issues like with the reviews, if it seems like it's from a current or former employee. If there's links, you can't have, Google doesn't allow links to be in the reviews. If there's any like profanity or anything like that, and maybe you need to go into your GMB and just make sure that you have access to it to update it and that it's fully updated. Do you have anything else there, Colton?
Yeah, I mean, just some common things that for the most part have kind of stopped. It's not as common of a trend, but one big one is like if you happen to have like a give us a review and you have like a tablet set up or something like that there in the business, there's a real good chance that your IP or even just that kind of portal for submitting reviews can just get kind of blocked or snuffed. So I wouldn't do that if that is one thing that you're potentially doing and running into there, because it could look like spamming it. The other thing could be the frequency as well. You know, if for whatever reason your people are leaving your reviews in the middle of the night, it could seem unnatural, and so that might be part of it. It's rare, but I have seen it once where, you know, maybe you're getting a lot of reviews. Maybe you just do outstanding work, and it's just, again, it's just getting flagged as spammy. In those cases, you can kind of try to make a case to Google, basically work with them directly to say, hey, people just love me. I've only seen that once, so it's incredibly rare. And it also kind of is one of those where the business I'm referencing there kind of churned customers out quickly. You know, they had, you know, 4 or 5 customers coming in and out the door kind of every hour. So they were getting a high number of, like, you know, repeat people. Another one could be if you're offering any sort of thing on your website where you're saying, hey, give us a review, we'll give you, you know, $20 or something like that. Those things kind of blatantly out there can also potentially hurt that. So, you know, just make sure that you're keeping up with Google's guidelines as far as what they require for things to be kind of considered valid. And, you know, if you are at all trying to game the system, try not to do that, because that could be part of it. And Amanda kind of hit on it softly there, but log into your GMB, double check that you're not kind of suspended or anything like that that might also be causing that to happen. A suspension doesn't always mean the listing disappears off Google. So as far as you can tell, as far as everybody can tell, the GMB profile is fine, but once you log in, you may get hit with a little red warning that says, hey, we've kind of deactivated your portal and your listing, if you will, until you talk to us again. So, you know, just keep in mind that that might be part of it as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Colton. One other I wanted to ask was about voice search. You hit on that just a couple of times. So maybe quickly, like, do you just need to optimize your GMB because that's often where voice search comes from, or like where it pulls the answers? Like, how do you kind of start to work that into your SEO strategy?
Sure. So the source for voice search, as far as what is provided, will be in most cases device specific. So for example, if you have like an Alexa or something like that, for shopping particular, you know, questions or something like that that is related to shopping, there's a real good chance that they're just going to go with their kind of internal inventory. So, you know, again, if you're not on Amazon or you don't have your products there, there's really no way for you to get included. The same goes for, I think it's what, the Google Dot or something like that. Anyways, basically, if you're using their speaker or just kind of anything like that, if you have Siri, you know, those things are going to be, again, kind of based more on Safari and different things like that. And even, you know, in some cases like Apple Maps. So just know it's a little bit dynamic as far as where your information needs to be. But in general, all you need to do is just have your information out there, make sure it's accurate kind of in the most places you can. And then for a lot of voice queries, it just comes down to that question and answer, not necessarily within a GMB listing, but more on the website. You know, again, like an FAQ would be kind of key there. And what you're looking for specifically are what they call the featured snippets or the rich results. Basically, if you do a Google search on Google and they give you like the quick answer there, a lot of times those are directly tied to specific voice queries or are the answers for specific voice queries. So in that instance, essentially, that's what you need to try to optimize and try to answer or have content for, so that hopefully you can replace or beat out that rich result that might be there today. So that's one way that you can essentially see, you know, what might potentially be getting flagged or kind of caught for voice search, and then also kind of what you need to answer. And in a lot of cases, you know, doing a lot of research as of kind of the beginning of last year, so it's been a little while, but conducting a large amount of research across a lot of different verticals, what I actually found, and for Boostability, was it wasn't specific to just FAQs. In a lot of cases, it was actually blogs and blog posts, and something that was a much larger piece of content that was then getting a little chunk of it, snipped out for that rich snippet and then being fed into voice search. So it could be on top of questions. It could be a matter of you actually creating more generic or more kind of open-ended content and using your blog. It might be something like that. It might be that you need to expand a specific service page and include a lot more details that you might not have. Just as a super quick example, and I think the handyman kind of example that we just talked about is kind of prime here. If you're the only one in your area providing pricing or even just a price range for something, there's a real good chance that if somebody says, hey, Google, what is the cost for a deck in Provo, Utah, and if you happen to have that kind of verbiage and that kind of thing out there, there's a good chance that that could get picked up for voice search. That wasn't your core intent. You created that content for some other reason, but it could get picked up there. So, at the end of the day, add as much detail as you can into your pages. Make sure you have all of the FAQs that you can add into your pages as well. Again, if you're not sure, talk to your customers directly. They'll tell you what questions they may have, or ask somebody who just talked to you. What questions do they have? If somebody's calling you, or if you get a lot of calls, why? Why are they calling you? Anyway, so that might be part of it. But really, that's about it. You can do a little bit of kind of schema markup, but to be frank, it's not necessary. Google is kind of beyond that in the sense that they are smart enough to understand it as long as it's pretty basic formatting. For complex formats, they might have an issue. So like recipes is a prime example there, where the format is going to be a little bit weird because you're talking about paragraph between instructions between essentially materials or ingredients, right? So in those cases, they probably require markup. But in general, for most questions and just kind of any local business out there, you just need the detail and you just need questions.
Love it. Okay, we're going to answer one more, and then we will do our best to answer everybody else's offline. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So this is from Brenda. Colton, this is for you. How often do you recommend checking and updating your Google My Business?
That's going to vary. So in general, I would say it depends on kind of you and your business. One example I will give there is like if you're a doctor's office, and let's say that you as a physician are maybe traveling between 2 or 3 different offices, if that schedule is fairly flexible where, 1 week you're maybe at a different office for most of the time, but maybe the next week you're at a different one, then that honestly could be weekly that you need to go in there and just make sure that you're updating that information. There is nothing more irritating for a user and subsequently for Google than providing you or a user information and then having it not be accurate and then getting feedback that wasn't accurate. So that's kind of the bigger point with that. The other bit as well might be depending on how frequent maybe you need to interact with your audience. There's lots of tools that can do that for you or at least help automate that. But if you get a lot of reviews coming in the door or maybe just a lot of feedback in general, you might need to be in there daily. Questions is kind of one of those things that I think of where you might be getting a lot of questions, and if you don't have things routed right, you may not be seeing that. So that might be an instance where you need to go in just to check those questions, but then also to answer them. Anyways, so that's a few different things. Obviously, anything that might be time sensitive, again, that might be daily, that could be weekly, it could be quarterly. So first of all, I would say if it's been a minute since you've been in there, let's say it's been more than 3 months, go in there today and just check it out, see what you got there. You may have taken a photo shoot over the holidays that you didn't even think to include in your GMB, and so you can now. I'm thinking like a company event where maybe you took pictures, who knows, right? Anyway, so those are things that you can certainly check those out today. And then again, if it's something that you see yourself kind of updating your business information in general more frequently, go in there and just make sure that you're updating that when you are making those slight changes to your business, to your service, and just quite frankly to what you're trying to put out there and have people find.
Awesome. Thank you everyone so much. I was just thinking maybe we should do like a whole Q&A show where people can just ask questions and we can do a rapid fire engagement. That could be really fun. I'm kind of like loving this interaction with everybody. Great questions. So thank you for joining. Kristine, if you could advance the slide. Just wanted to say that if you do need help with your SEO, Boostability is always here to help you. You can reach out to us at boostability.com. We just launched a beautiful new website. It's designed as an account-based marketing website, so you can get a look and feel for that. It's in portals. So if you are a partner and you're looking to sell SEO, you can go in our partner portal. If you are an SMB and you were looking for SEO for yourself, you can go in our SMB portal. And we've also launched a resource portal. So you can go there, you can learn about SEO. We're going to be updating it every month with new classes, new videos, new content. We are here to help you succeed online. So you can also RSVP to our next show at boostability.com/search-sessions. And we will see you next month. Thanks so much.